Doing today? Welcome to my photography chat live stream where we come together as a community and talk about photography. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat section and I'll do my best to answer them. And because I like the audience to drive the conversation, I always have a few things I like to catch up on what I've been doing over the week, photography related, because this is a never-ending craft, right? You're always learning. And more recently, I've been messing with infrared photography, and gosh, still a long way to go. But I'll share a few images I did with that, and also I've been using a lot of other kind of filters other than infrared filters. You know, my swirly filter and my star filter, and I'm just a big filter nut. And I went into my Amazon store and or cart and looked at all the filters I've been buying over the past year, and it's just been a ton, but it's been primarily polarizers, ND filters, and then these special effect filters, which I'm really enjoying quite a bit. So, I'm not saying you should go out and do every shot with a filter on, but uh, just sprinkle your portfolio every now and then with, like star filter or swirly filter or kaleidoscope, you know, flare, whatever. These are all just for fun, and that's why I do photography is to just enjoy my time in the field and getting out and getting a little exercise along the way. And uh, in the photo club, that sort of camaraderie, or being around people that are like-minded and enjoy photography as well. So there's a big social aspect to it as well. I really enjoy that, and and that's what I try to encourage here is just make photography fun. Don't take yourself too seriously or photography too seriously. Just go out and enjoy um, taking pictures, and of course, I do photography professionally as well, and that's okay. It's I do mostly, like, lately it's been more residential properties. I did commercial property for a long time. Um, I lost one of my clients, I guess due to pricing, because he found somebody about $100 cheaper, and I'm like, "That's fine." You know? I get it. If the pictures are good enough for $100 less, that's fine, but I'm not willing to lower my, quality of output just to get a little better pricing. And I think most professionals will tell you that, right? Is don't lower your price and get into the price war or get into that game. Nobody wins, and charge according to what your skill set is and what you can deliver, and then add on, professional service and maybe a few bonuses every now and then. Like sometimes I like to add in maybe some virtual staging, or I might do a floor plan, whatever, and not charge anything extra, just time to time. But uh, so there's that. And but really, photography for me is really about going out and just enjoying the process and taking the photos, and that's why I have so many different cameras, because every camera offers a little bit different experience. And from DSLRs to mirrorless to compact cameras, all kinds of stuff. It's yeah, I have a little bit of gas, but that's okay, right? Typically, I buy used gear and save a bunch of money. Like this Pentax K3 back here, I got for $300, you know, and I got a 50 millimeter 1.4 for $100. And a few other lenses, and for very little money, for what we do. But then there's the big boys, right? The OM3 2000, but that's a great camera. That's probably my favorite camera of all time at this point. Uh, I just, it used to be the Pen F, but the OM3 does everything the Pen F does, but just faster and better. Um, So yeah, photography. It's a great hobby. If you're just getting started, don't spend a lot of money. Just use whatever you have, whatever gear you have, whether it's your cell phone or maybe a compact camera or some used gear or even the latest and greatest, right? Something brand new. Uh, it's not about the gear. Photography is not about gear, right? These are separate subjects. There's gear and then there's photography, or some people like to say these are tools and this is your craft, right? So no matter how you word it, just have fun, enjoy it, and and Robin Wong came up with a great term, shutter therapy. It's very, very relaxing when you can go out in the field and take your time and think about what's in front of you, and finding the beauty and uh, I guess the word is maybe beauty is not the right exact word, but uh, just gosh, how things, just the structure of things, right, and how things just make so much sense in where things are and what they do. I don't know why the word escapes me. There's a perfect word for it, but in any case, I see Stuart's here. Good morning from England, and Roger, good to see you. And I replied to your emails this morning, Roger. So check that. And Gordon, good to see you, and Calvin, always good to see you. So uh, yeah, so there's that. So I guess let me just share a few images just to get started. These are some that I took yesterday. I'll just go onto my Flickr page. Uh, it's just flickr.com/Rob Trek. But I went out with my Pentax monochrome yesterday, and this is it's probably my second favorite camera at this point after the OM3. Uh, just shooting in black and white, and it's a very simple architectural picture, right? Nothing special, standard 3/4. And I'm not going to win any awards for this, but I like this picture. Uh, just I just love the tonality that I get out of the Pentax K3. And some of you may notice, immediately top left corner, all the highlights are completely clipped, but I'm okay with that. It's not about trying to get a technically perfect image where you've retained all the highlights and you're, uh, maintaining your shadows without clipping those completely black. I just wanted to get a normal exposure and get the output basically uh, straight out of camera. There is some editing here, but um, I enjoyed this photo for the technical quality of the camera. So this is not photography. This is about the gear in this photo. Uh, and I enjoy that just as much as the photography itself. So, for whatever reason, people buy new gear because they enjoy the technical aspects and capabilities of the camera. And this is an example of that in that sense, where I'm not doing anything special here in a photography standpoint. I'm doing this photo just because I enjoy the kind of images that the camera can generate, the kind of tones, going strictly black and white, the limitations of that, and then also in the field, the DSLR experience, right? Looking through an EVF or an OVF, an optical viewfinder, rather than shooting through an electronic viewfinder. Uh, and also, this is a relatively new lens I got recently, about a month ago, the Sigma 17 to 50 2.8. I also like to look at the corner to corner sharpness. So this is your typical, I'd say, like test review shot. Like if I was doing a review of the Pentax K3 or the lens, this would be a typical shot where, I'm going to dig into the corners, I'm going to dig into the center, I'm going to look at the tones. But I'm not trying to sell this picture. Now this image, same camera, but this is where I actually try to get a little creative, and this is not about the camera, because at this point I'm very familiar with the camera's capability, the kind of tones and exposure I'm going to get, and of course being monochrome. And what this lens is capable of, its focal length, its overall sharpness, all of that is secondary at this point. This is an image where I'm focusing really on the photography and trying to be creative. So I'm introducing some, foreground elements that break up the scene, and but the focus is on the background. So I don't know. It didn't. I like this picture. I saw something similar to this over the past week or so that kind of inspired me to try something like this, where you block or partially block the main subject in the scene with other elements. And these are natural elements, right? This is just really tall grass. I actually had to hold the camera up over my head to get this shot. So I didn't actually see the frame when I took the picture, because the Pentax K3 doesn't have a tilting screen or anything. But somehow I nailed it. I got exactly the picture I was looking for from this shot. And this is where I'm thinking about, the composition as I imagined it without actually looking through the optical viewfinder. And this came out perfectly. So even though, again, it's probably not a great picture, it's not going to win any awards, but I really like this picture at a very personal level. That I achieved the vision that I was going for, and I used the gear or the tool that I thought would give me the look that I wanted. So I really like this picture for what it is. And these two pictures side by side, like I said, this is just a technical picture, really nothing to do with the scene, or there's really nothing that interesting going on versus this image here where I feel like I'm progressing a little bit, because this is a kind of shot I wouldn't do normally. Uh, anyone that tells, all of your basic training, I'd say, says, try to get a nice clear shot, fill the frame possibly, look at the geometry, try to balance the image. But here I basically split the horizon 50-50, and I put the subject front and center, and there's a ton of distracting elements in the foreground obscuring the subject. So this has really a lot of things that break a lot of the rules that you learn sort of when you're starting out in photography. But this picture somehow works for me. Maybe it's because it's the first time I've really done something like this, and that's why I like it so much. And 5 years from now, I'm going to look back on this picture and say, "Man, I really didn't know what I was doing." But uh, this is fun for me. This is what I enjoy, and that's what I try to encourage people, is to just have fun and enjoy photography and explore new compositions and new ideas that maybe you haven't tried before. And uh, don't take it too seriously. Don't worry if the picture sucks, or you're not completely happy with the image the way it came out, because I have certainly several of those coming up. Uh, Now here's a picture also with the Pentax K3, and the highlights weren't really blown. I processed this one. I mean, a lot of the highlights were blown. I'd say 50%. So I just decided to push the slider up and blow out all the highlights and eliminate any detail, and go with a very binary image where it's mostly black and white and just a few tones here in the grass and in the tree trunk here. But everything else is pretty much just black and white, especially up in here. So I like the composition of the tree, but I'm not crazy about this binary look. But I wanted to try it and see uh, if this is something I might be able to incorporate in future images and future creations, right? So again, this is a very good example of where the you're really not trying to get the maximum tonal range, maximum dynamic range of a scene, and you're really focusing on the composition. So it's almost there. I like the leading line of the shadow to the tree. I like this little specular. I would have liked a starburst here, but I couldn't quite manage it. And I do like this very binary look up here uh, to some extent, but I don't feel like it blended well with the tones down here. Something's not quite right. So I'm going to study this image later or think about this image more, how I can make this better, because I think there's a shot here. And I think this could be an epic shot because this is a really epic tree. But what can I do differently next time? Maybe a different time of day. Uh, maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe very early in the morning when I can actually easily retain the highlights and expose for the foreground, or maybe, I don't know. But there's something here that intrigues me that I want to explore. And then here's the OM3. This is an infrared. I used a, 720 nanometer infrared filter, and this scene, this is your typical like beginner shot, I think, right? We're doing basically a rule of thirds. I'm splitting the horizon into foreground, middle ground, background, and uh, I did some technical things on the exposure that I try to take into account. The shutter speed was like one third of a second or something. Let me see. It was 1.3 seconds. So the long exposure, on a landscape that really could potentially blur some of the details because there's a little bit of a breeze out there, so you can see all the grass here is blurred out because it was moving when I took this shot. So I made some decisions on the exposure to add a little bit of softness to the image, while this building here would be tack sharp. This was more about experimenting with shutter speed and landscapes rather than the composition and the infrared part. The infrared part was just because I want to get experience in post processing infrared. This didn't come out too nice in color, so I just went black and white. Uh, and I'm just getting started with really infrared photography. So I'm out there taking a lot of infrared shots now and working on my processing skills, my post processing, working on exposure and different kinds of scenes, and how, what kind of image do you get when you use an infrared filter? Well, how do the colors get changed, or uh, the saturation and variety of colors. Now, 720 nanometer filter is not going to give you rich colors, but it's going to give you some colors that you can post process and get decent, but not a wide range. You really need to get down to about 590 or 665, something like that, a little bit lower, something that's more in the visible light spectrum or closer to than 720. 720 is kind of right on the cusp between visible light and infrared light, which we can't see. So I can get some color, but it didn't come out too well. So I may have to get a new filter. Um, and then this is another shot that, in this case, and you'll see this shot again in one of my video reviews of a flash. But I was using a flash to illuminate the foreground and the building or this house, and then still retain the highlights in the background. And I think I succeeded here because otherwise I would have got basically a silhouette of the building and the sky would be perfectly exposed. So I had to try to find a balance between flash and ambient light to try to come up with this shot. Now, this shot is heavily processed. I did have to push shadows and pull highlights a little bit, but without flash, I wouldn't have gotten as clean a shot as I would have without it. So this is another technical shot where I'm just going for a semi decent composition and color palette is really diverse here. But the primary goal of this shot was really about the exposing ambient light and mixing that with flash. Same thing here. This statue is completely silhouetted, so I used the on-camera flash to illuminate it and the foreground, and then try to retain the details in the sky and the colors there. So again, if you watch my video review of some flashes I have to that I have to review this week, you'll probably see this shot again. It's a good example. And this shot here, I really messed up. This shot was actually much, much wider. I should have zoomed in camera and to get better details and just an overall cleaner shot. I'm not happy with this one at all. The only thing I like about this is that the color palette is very, very diverse. We go from blue to green to yellow, lots of red. So, every color is represented here, basically. The magentas, but yeah, technically, it's a really poor, very poor picture. Technically, it's not going to print nicely. It barely, I think, looks good on the screen. But I, you know, overall, this looks okay. It looks okay. I mean, I would give this like a 5 out of 10 on a scale. So here it is, and the composition is fairly well balanced, but that was all done in post-processing because again, this was a much, much wider shot. I don't think there's many pixels left here. Yeah, just uh, about 10 megapixels. This is an 80 megapixel shot. This was a high-res shot mode, and I cropped it down to just 10 megapixels. So I was able to retain some decent details because it's a high-res shot mode of 80 megapixels, but nowhere near what it could have been or should have been. And this was all done yesterday. This is okay. This shot, I I was using the OM3 here, and I've never taken a decent shot of a Canon. My goal here was to show the Canon maybe firing off into the sunrise, but it just didn't work. This is, you know, compositionally, we have the foreground here with the cannon, the midground here with the grass, and then the background. So we have some depth, which I like. I like the leading line of the cannon going into the sunset, and there's a really decent color palette here. Uh, nice warm tones with a little bit of green and the yellows and oranges complement that nicely. And then, of course, the cannon being black doesn't uh, affect anything at all. And it has some really neat reflections on it, but because you can see the streaking of all the clouds in the reflection here on the cannon. So there's a lot of individual elements I think that work really well, but as a picture as a whole, I don't think this holds up too well. Uh, so again, compositionally, it's technically pretty decent. Color palette is decent, but the picture to me is just boring and uninspiring overall. But I put it out there just to kind of get a feel for, uh, like I said, I like to go back and analyze my shots, and I think this is something everyone should do is after a photo shoot, cherry pick, the ones where you were very deliberate about the composition and what you wanted to see, and then analyze those and be very critical of yourself. I'm the most critical person on myself than anyone, and and don't don't sweat it. Don't take it too seriously, right? I mean, have fun and think about your next shot, right? Think about how much better your next shot can be. And then this shot here really is, I was using my swirly filter. This is not in post processing. This shot is almost practically straight out of camera. All I did was push the shadows a little bit so you could see some of the details in the statue here. But the filter creates all of these different swirly kind of effects. And it worked really well with these clouds because the clouds were very swirly themselves. And then I like this little bit of lens flare I got off the shoulder. So this was kind of a fun shot for me. I got no, I don't know. This shot was another good 100% success for me, like the one I talked about earlier with the foreground. And let me just put the chat window up real quick and see um, how we're doing here. If there was any other questions, okay. I'm just going to finish what I took yesterday, and then we'll go back to. I'll go back to the chat room. This is my 4 millimeter fisheye lens on my OM3. This is really the only true fisheye lens where you get a full circular image on your camera sensor, and it shoots actually about 190 or 200 degrees. It actually you can see behind the camera with this lens. And I achieved this shot by just putting the lens on my head and pointing it straight up at the sky, and then it was able to go backwards and go all the way down to waist level on the people that were standing near me, and then of course the grass and everything all the way around. So this is a really fun filter. It's a Seven Artisans 4 millimeter fisheye. So look for that if you go to Amazon or wherever you buy your lenses. If you want a full circular fisheye and have some fun, this lens is a lot of fun. This is a color infrared shot, 720 nanometer filter. Didn't work out too well. Something I realized with the 12 to 45 f4 Pro is it has a big hotspot right in the center. I mitigated it somewhat in post processing, but there's a very bright spot right in the center. So I'm gonna have to whip out some of my old Nikon glass and see what lenses I can use with that filter and not get hotspots. I'll have to do a little more due diligence there. Another shot with the infrared filter, um, converted to black and white because the colors were just terrible. There's some potential here, but uh, nothing special. I just like this tree. I kind of like the effect I was getting up in here with the flare and this contrast between the bright leaves and the leaves in the shadow. But yeah, this shot was kind of a fail. Okay, this shot came out much better than I thought it would. I didn't process it too well, but I really like the composition of this scene with these little carts here. These are cannon carts, I guess. They carry the gunpowder and other stuff in these little cabinets. But you can see the sky, how swirly the clouds were that morning. And the foliage came out really white, meaning the grass and the trees. But I don't know, I just like this particular crop and composition quite a bit. And I'm gonna have to study this more about why do I like this picture so much. It's not, like I said, none of my pictures are gonna win awards or anything, but I do this for myself for my own enjoyment, right? And this is one picture that I'm particularly happy with. I wouldn't say I'm proud of this picture because there's certainly a lot of problems here, but I'm really happy with this picture. I really like how everything came out on this. And yep, that was the last one from yesterday. This was from last week. So this is the last one from yesterday. So I think that's for me, this is a high note to end on for my photos. And just always be sure to check out my Flickr page because I tend to leave all of the EXIF data in my images, except when I forget. Like I forgot to do it for this one. Uh, because this was processed in Lightroom because my DxO does not process monochrome images, meaning from the Pentax monochrome camera. So I had to process it in Lightroom, and then all the EXIF data was turned off because I just delivered some images to a client, and I turn off the EXIF data except for copyright, and that's why there's nothing here, and I forgot to turn it back on. But that's not the norm. The norm is I do have the EXIF data there. Okay. So that was my day yesterday. I hope you guys had a great day out shooting. The weather's been really amazing. A little bit cool for my taste. You can see I'm back to long sleeves again, and it's freaking August. Oh, I hate the winter time. I hate it so much. Cold weather. But anyhow, um, I mean it's 64 degrees in my room right now. It's just, and I'm cold. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's 73 degrees in here. I don't like it. I like to be in the 80s. That's a good temperature for me. If it goes up to 90, I can tolerate it. Over 100, it starts to get a little too hot. But 80s is very comfortable. 90s is tolerable. 70s is tolerable. But man, when we get down to the 50s and 60s, that's just too cold. My hands were cold yesterday morning. It was like 56 degrees out, and I was like, man, I should have brought my gloves. Ugh. Anyhow, let me open up my chat window. And let's see, Calvin. Oh, Robert. Hey, Robert. Robert was in one of the photos, the fisheye photo. He went out with me yesterday to do some photography, so it's good to see you here. And oh, you enjoying the K3 photos? Yeah, the monochrome camera is just. I thought I killed it yesterday because the screen went completely black. This thing is a heavy. I thought the screen went completely black. And I could see the lettering a little bit, but it was just almost unlegible. And fortunately, I got home, and it was thankfully the least destructive thing that could happen is I pushed one of the buttons and changed the brightness to like 0, so that basically I turned the screen off, and I couldn't see the menu turn the screen back on uh, when I was out in the field, right? So when I got home, I put my glasses on and I got a light and I started looking. And I said, okay, I can see a little bit there. And then I found the screen brightness menu line item and was able to turn it back on. So everything is everything is good now. I'm happy now. Now I can see the screen again because that was terrifying. I'm driving home and I'm thinking about, God, how much is this going to cost me to fix this camera? I mean, if it were any other camera, just about, I wouldn't care, right? Because it would just cost too much to fix it. But this camera, I really like. But anyhow, Barry's here. Marco, good to see you. And Peter and Chuck. Oh, Chuck has a feedback here. Bracketing works really well in these types of scenarios, though I don't think DxO has 14-bit HDR stacking. It does not. So I have to use Photoshop to stack images. Oh, Shri is here. Shri was in one of the photos too, in the circular fisheye. I'd say the entire world was in my photo, in the fisheye photo, technically, right? At least for the field of view where the Earth curves. I'm not a flat earther, okay? So good to see you, Shri. And that first shot of the house looks familiar. Manassas Battlefield. Yes, it is Manassas Battlefield Park. Manassas National Battlefield Park to uh, be more precise. Robert says, "Hey Rob, try the fisheye lens at Graverly Point. See if you can get an airplane passing overhead." That would be cool, but it'd probably be only this big in the frame, right? I mean, I mean, the picture I'm imagining is like the plane is filling the frame, but then it's all fisheyed, right? Yeah, no, the way to do that, otherwise, it's going to be like this big in the frame. In the frame being this big, it's not going to work. Uh, I think to get a to get the plane to fill the frame with a fisheye lens flying overhead, you'd have to use a telephoto lens and then fisheye it in post processing. And Free Hug says, I just got my first M43 camera yesterday, and your beginner series has been really useful. Thank you. Oh, I'm happy to help. Um, yeah, I still get comments on my videos that I made from like 10 years ago. So people are still shooting EM10 Mark II. And it's great to see, people getting into photography at a, entry level price, at a very affordable price, because it's a great camera. It's a great camera. I took so many great pictures. I'd like to get it again one day. The one that I have is totally non-functional now. Um, it's just been beat to death. That's how much I loved it. I used it so much. And it was early on in my photography when I was dropping my camera all the time. I'm very, very careful now. Very careful. I haven't dropped a camera in a long time, but I was famous for that early on this channel. I was very famous for that. Oh, and come to think of it, I broke 50,000 subscribers the other day. So thank you everyone for that. That's a pretty significant milestone, I guess. Uh, 50,000. That's awesome. So now, not that it's that much more than say 49,000, right? But it's like it's that number, right? Like when you say $1 million, right? Or I'm saying that totally wrong. There's something about certain numbers that just have a ring to them, and 50,000 has a nice ring to it. So thank you everyone for your support over the years and subscribing to the channel. It was great to finally reach that benchmark because all of my peers, started after me with a lot less subscribers and have now well over surpassed me, right? They're breaking 100,000. And that's great. I'm so happy for them. I'm glad they could break the 100,000 mark because then YouTube actually recognizes you and gives you a little plaque, right? Uh, and what I really like about it though is just knowing that uh, people actually take the time out of their day, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes or a couple hours on a live stream. I I want to thank you for your time today and for being here with me to talk about photography. Because trust me, there's been many times when I thought about why am I doing this? There's no money in it practically, at least not the way I do it, right? Because like the last 2 months, I haven't put any ads on my live streams. We've been running ad free for the last 2 months. I haven't made any money on this. And I was looking at my stats this morning, and I only picked up three new members. Three, three members in the past month. Uh, because I would say if you want to support the live streams, become a member. It's 99 cents, and or make a donation. And everything is down. Everything is down. Donations are down. Memberships are down. Views are even down. So I'm doing something wrong, but that's okay. I don't do this for the money or, well, I do, but there's certainly other things I could be doing for a lot more money, like making minimum wage would be a lot more money than I make here. But I do this because I primarily because I really enjoy it. man, there's days when, like, God, it was just a few days ago, I was so down. I was just my brain your chemistry just goes off sometimes, right? And you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you're like, I think I'm just gonna disappear on YouTube, you know? The 3 or 400 bucks that I make off of it and all the time that I put into it, I don't know if it's really worth it. And it's technically it's not, but it is worth it because it's not just about making a couple dollars, but I learn a lot here, and hopefully I'm able to uh, spread a little knowledge out to you guys as well. And also, like I said, the social aspect of it, interacting with people on a regular basis and just having fun, right? You can't put a price on that because there's so many things that money can solve a lot of problems, but there's so many things that I want in life that money cannot buy, right? And this is one of those things. Being here on YouTube and interacting with you guys means a lot to me. Means a lot to me that you're here. So thank you again. Thank you for the 50,000. Thank you for all of your support over the years, and thank you for taking time out of your day today or later in a video and being there with me. So through this wonderful hobby that we have. Okay, and Anthony, good to see you. And why, Walter? How are you? Walter was one of my early. Uh, he's been a friend of mine from since high school, practically. Well, since college, I'd say, but a long time. And he was a very big inspiration and taught me a lot about photography very early on. When I started back in 2012 or 2013, something like that. So thank you, Walter, for all of your support and helping me get started in this field. And Walter is an accomplished photographer as well. He's taught me a lot. And Chuck says, I dropped my GR3 because I had my Peak Design wrist strap on and I thought it was a GR strap. Luckily, it just fell on some soft mud. Need a little cleaning, but it works fine. Yeah. Yeah, dropping a camera no matter what is no fun. Just the force. It's there's a fly in here. Anyhow, it's annoying. A fruit fly or something. But I've dropped the camera on a soft surface and then it broke it. You know, terrible. And Sis Chora and Marcia, good to see you. And thank you. Thank you so much. It is a great community. It is a great community here. Not just you guys, but also the other creators here, like Robin and Jimmy and Peter and Maddie and Emily and uh, all the rest. There's so many great creators here in the Michael Four Thirds community that, um, and more broadly, the photography community that really enjoy photography, right? And you need to make a viral type of video. I watched some Homestead guy in Arkansas that has similar subscribers and makes too much for his early Social Security, so now he lives on YouTube. Wow. Maybe one day. I don't know. I get inspired every now and then to try to make a good video. But if you look at my videos from like say last week to something I made say 10 years ago, the production quality is exactly the same. I just turn the camera on. I tried to do at least get the lighting right and the exposure right, but I don't have fancy titles and cut scenes and different kinds of shots, the close up, the wide, the medium. There's all kinds of like cinematography that I don't do. Storytelling. And I could take notes and write all that stuff down and try and make a video. Like, Emily is really good at it. over at Micro Four Nerds. Thomas Heaton is really good at it. Uh, they're so good at. I mean, Emery's personality alone is why she's so successful. She's just so much fun to watch, but she's also an incredible cinematographer and photographer to kind of go with it. So she's great, and she's having a lot of success on YouTube. That she makes her living off of it now, so that's great. And Jimmy's really good. Robin has improved a lot from his early videos, right? Um, he's got his style of making videos, and it works for him, and that's great. So there's a lot of guys. But me, man, it's the same thing, right? Show you the menu screen, show you the camera buttons and dials, or flash, or whatever it is I'm shilling. you know, it's very, very straightforward. And I'm just a very pragmatic person, right? When it comes to photography gear. I mean, I love gear and I'm passionate about it, but it's like if I want to tell you about this lens, I'm like, okay, it's 4 millimeter fisheye, full circular f2.8. What else do I need to say about this, right? Um, you know, and it's pretty sharp, but you saw the pictures I take with this. Nothing fancy. I got a couple of nice ones with this, uh, but that's not what YouTube and the general population likes to watch, right? They like to see a little drama. They like to have a little visual uh, dynamics there with cutscenes, graphics, and a story on top of that, right? I'd say my style is probably more similar to, I think his name is Chris. I forget his name, but he does lenses, and his strength is really about consistency. I mean, agree with his reviews or not, generally I would agree with them, right? Um, his videos are exactly the same, lens to lens to lens. He could review 100 different lenses, and every video is exactly the same, about the same length, same tone, same order. I mean, everything. But that's important when you're doing lens reviews, right? You need a consistent, I wouldn't call it a scientific method of testing lenses, but you need a very consistent methodology, which he has, and that's what wins. That's why he's doing so well, right? With subscribers, anyway. I don't know how much money he makes at all, but uh, in terms of viewer metrics, he's very successful in that respect. Okay, and we met in 1992. Oh, okay. Wow. 1992. So that's what, 8 plus 25. So 32 years. So I've known you 3 decades. My God. Crazy. Time flies. Okay, we'll catch up with you later, Walter. And John follows. Good to see you. John has been with me almost since the beginning, as many of you have. System Natura, Plug the Nichols. Wow, haven't seen you in a while, but good to see you. I dropped my new all-in-one twice with the first month of having it. First one, luckily, a plastic lens hood with cheap insurance, and the sign I was right on. Oh, but it's still working. Knock on wood. Yeah, you're lucky. Um, I've dropped my all-in-one maybe twice that I can remember, but it did break the second time. And I'm speaking of dropping things, and I had to send it in. Christopher Frost, thank you. Yeah, Christopher Frost. He has great reviews on lenses. A lot of times I'm like Johnny come lately. I'll watch his reviews before I do my review on the same lens and see if I can kind of concur with that, right? And I've not found, I may have found one exception where my copy was fine and he had an issue with his. I can't remember what lens it was. So when I did my review, I said, lens is great. When he did his review, he said, it's okay. It's okay for the money, right? But my lens was, I was getting better results than him with my copy, which is very rare when I'm comparing my reviews or my results against other reviewers online. Uh, so, and Henning is here. Good to see you. Uh, and that reminds me. Well, I'll send you an email. Uh, not Henning, but someone else. I'll have to send an email out. Uh, and David Hill, Wi-Fi issues. My problem cannot be unique. Okay, yeah. All right. So far so good. Um, and I think today will be the. Oh wait, there's a question here. Was that you in Alexandria City yesterday driving through and swear it just looked like you near the three twin buildings you took? No, I did not go into Alexandria yesterday. But I have that kind of face, right? I mean, very, very generic. Unless you know me really well, you wouldn't be able to pick me out of a crowd. I'm very generic. Okay, and I'm just going through the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think you need a major production to make a video. Just bring a video camera along and take photos. People will watch, of course. I'm not one to talk. I don't have a channel. No, there is sort of a, I think, I mean, it's not photography related, but on YouTube, there is sort of a resurgence, and that's probably too strong a word, but back to authenticity, right? In video, because some videos are so polished and almost like, studio quality, Hollywood quality production, and then you got the other extreme of just pure AI garbage. And I think on YouTube there seems to be some resurgence in authentic videos, authenticity, where making a video similar to what you're talking about, where you just turn the camera on and get out and just start to jibber jabber, right? Um, and that's how my videos have always been. It's just me holding a camera out and talking, without the high production videos. You know, like I'll give you an example. I think Matty Salanto is a lot like that, right? In his videos, they're not. He's got a lot more polish than I do, but they're not highly polished. It's just him with a camera in front of him talking about whatever it is he's talking about. And so it's very authentic, right? And I think that attributes a lot to his success, because he's competing with some serious disadvantages, right? But he's got some significant advantages. Uh, and by disadvantage, I mean English is not his first language, as opposed to me, right? And uh, well, I guess that's really the major one. But that's a significant disadvantage, right? Like Robin Wong. I don't know if English is his first language, but definitely, in Peter Forsgard, we technically from that, and maybe I'm looking at this completely wrong, but I should be at a major advantage with English being my first language when it comes to making videos on YouTube. Um, but yeah, Maddie is very, very authentic in his videos. Uh, Somebody like Thomas Heaton is also pretty authentic, but there's a lot of cuts and work that he does, and he's got it down. But he has a really good script, a really good story, and great cinematic views with a drone time to time, and lots of scenes where he is third person, right? Where the camera, I mean, he literally hikes a mountain twice in every video because he has to do a video of him walking up the mountain. Then he has to come back down to get his camera, then go back up it again, rinse and repeat, 20 times in a 30-minute video that he makes. Uh, but he does so there's a lot of production in his video, but it's still authentic, right? It's just him in front of a camera. As opposed to, like Mr. Bean, and I'm just throwing names out. Uh, Frono's photo is very polished, right? Uh, Tony and Chelsea, very polished videos, and with graphics and things like that. But and they probably some of them may have a crew. I don't know. Maybe they definitely have cameramen following them around time to time. But I'm not criticizing anybody's channel. I'm just my observation, right? And stark contrast to what I do, which hasn't been much lately. I took out my vlogging camera again yesterday. I haven't even looked at the footage, but I did record some stuff. Let's see. Maybe we can look at it together if I can plug it in without crashing the stream. Um, this is my coffee I had yesterday. My rack of filters that I use. Oh, here it is. Okay, here it is. So I got my little Insta360 Go. I have no idea what's on here. I did record some, but then the battery died. And I charged it back up again, but by the time it charged, I was done, or forgot about it. And then Sisma Chora says, "Have you or anyone had experience with the Samyang 85T?" No, neither one. But if anyone has, chime in to System Matura. I'm not familiar with those lenses. And Eric says, "Yeah, but your photo walk videos are pretty good. I know it's not your style, but listening to you in the field and discussing your shot before taking is informative, effective. No studio needed." True. I do enjoy that. Like, I was talking about my photos on Flickr today. Um, I can do that while I'm out in the field when I'm taking the shot because I was able to easily describe the photos that I showed on Flickr this morning because that's exactly what I was doing in the field when I was thinking about it, and I took about total 200 shots, I think, maybe 300 yesterday. Mostly because I was bracketing a lot, and there was a reason I was bracketing. Um, and doing infrared, I was experimenting with different shutter speeds. So technically, I took only about 2 dozen shots that I would care about, but overall, during the trip, I took 200 or 300 shots, and that was because I was experimenting with different things. I don't know if this is working or not. Sometimes I plug in and It just will not read. What if I turn it on? Okay, we'll wait for it. Oh, it is working. Okay, cool. So how much better is the OM system stacked versus non-stacked sensor? Trying to decide OM3 or OM5 Mark II. Don't need fast shooting for wildlife, but how about low light? Travel camera. Okay, there's the difference is negligible. It you can see it. I might have an example on my Flickr page. Let me take a look. So I can better illustrate what I'm going to say. But ultimately, the OM3 sensor is better. Short answer is it's better. But uh, that's not going to cut it because there's a significant price difference, right? There's not $1,000 difference, okay? But there is a difference. Okay. Uh, OM1. I'm going to give you the link to this image. So I'm going to put this in the chat section so that you and others can look at it in real time. Uh, Pardon me a second. Okay. So this is okay. This is the EM1 Mark III on the left side, the OM1 on the right side. So the EM13 and the OM5 Mark II sensor, I believe, are the same. Same processing engine and same sensor. And the OM1, of course, has the stack sensors and processor just like same identical in the OM3. And what I did here is I shot at ISO 3200 and ISO 6400. I underexposed the shots by 3 stops. And then I brought it back in post processing. So I raised the brightness slider by 3 stops in post processing. So what I'm trying to do is basically recover shadows, right, at different ISOs. So if we zoom in, you'll notice there's virtually no difference. And I didn't do any noise reduction or anything. These are the straight out of camera raws. But there's a slight color cast on the M1 Mark III, even though I believe I also did a white balance on these. But there's a slight color shift, whereas the OM1 was able to hold the color more accurately with a 3-stop push at these ISOs. Um, this is some other testing I did. Let me go back. Okay, here's another example where, oh, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. This is where I overexposed it by 3 stops, and then I had to dial in -3, okay? I think that's what I did here. Overexposed by 3 EV, then pulled it back. Okay, so I pulled it back in post-processing. So what I'm trying to check here is clipping, basically. How much of the highlights can I recover between the two cameras? This one is where I underexposed by 3 stops and then by 5 stops. And then at ISO 6400. And here you can see a pretty significant difference, right? Between the EM1 Mark III and the OM5, where There's certainly more chroma noise and actually a little bit more banding on the left side, which is the EM1 Mark III versus the OM1 at 5 stops. Over here at 3 stops, again, there is a difference, but less so, right? So I would say the difference at underexposing by 3 stops is pretty negligible. The colors and the noise are pretty close, although it is a hair better on the OM1. But it's when you go to 5 stops where you see pretty significant difference. Um, so I'll give you the link to this one too. Oops. So there's a visual representation between the two. So my I guess to answer your question is if you're going to stay within plus or minus 3 stops at ISO 6400, I think both cameras are going to perform the same. If you're going to be plus or minus 5 stops at ISO 6400, then the OM1 is going to outperform the EM1 Mark III. The question is that image still going to be usable at all anyway? Because they were both a train wreck. So I think when you're talking about working with a normal range that we're going to take a photo, which should be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2 stops at most on a Micro Four Thirds camera, either camera is going to give you about the same performance, same noise levels, and same dynamic range. It's only when you push the camera to its extremes that you can see those differences. So look at the feature set. The significant difference between, say, an OM3 and an OM5 Mark II is basically the battery life and the subject detect autofocus. The OM5 Mark II doesn't have it. If you don't care about that, the face detect is pretty good on OM5 Mark II, actually. I'd say just as good as the OM1. And Robin Wong would probably argue that the autofocus in low light is better on the OM5 Mark II. And I would concur partially with that. But to me, the OM1 has the better autofocus overall. But I can see where Robin Wong is coming from. He thinks the OM1 autofocus sucks. I wouldn't go that far personally. I think it's better. Uh, but we're very different photographers shooting different subjects in different conditions. And I'm always going to say the OM1 has better autofocus. He's always going to say the previous generation autofocus is better. And that's fine, right? Uh, hopefully that helps you with making that decision. But think about the feature sets, the computational side. They're going to be better on the OM1, but marginally so, right? Your money is probably better spent in the difference to buy really good lenses. And the OM5 is a great camera. And AJ Cooper is in the house. Good to see you. And nobody would be interested if I did a vlog, especially with my awful voice and ugly face. I just post wildlife videos of fauna and flora. You know what? I felt the same way before I started YouTube. I'm like, who's going to want to look at me and my very soft and quiet voice? I don't speak very loudly, right? Almost to the point of mumbling. And yet, uh, I'm here today with 50,000 subscribers. It's just amazing. And I don't mean to be mean, okay? But the reason I decided to give it a go, despite all my personal insecurities about how I look and how I sound and where I live, etc. Every insecurity you can think of, I had. Dealing with comments. What inspired me or tipped me over the edge and said, I is if this guy can do it, I can do it. Right? Because, and he's very self deprecating. Okay. He's not going to argue anything I'm going about to say. But I don't know if you guys remember the angry photographer. He's still on YouTube talking about other stuff other than photography now. But, he's bald, a little overweight, wears glasses. His video production quality is non-existent. He like just set his camera up in a desk with a I don't know, a tablecloth. I mean, like he did nothing, and yet he had, I think, at the time, like 30,000 subscribers. And I'm like, if that guy can do like put zero effort into how he looks and how he presents his space, and he knows it, I can do better than that, right? Or I can do at least as good as that. So I thought. Uh, so just a little background on me when I started YouTube. It was an angry photographer. Actually, I didn't find his channel because I was looking for photography. Because I really wasn't into photography when I was watching YouTube back then. Uh, I found his channel because he was talking about some physics, right? And properties of physics and magnetism. And I was doing a search on YouTube for that, and his channel popped up. And then when I got into photography, and Walter, who was here earlier, was a Nikon shooter, and I got into Nikon. I shot Nikon for many years, and Walter's still with Nikon, right? But uh, that's when I realized he also talked about Nikon on his channel. And Greg says, "Doesn't look like $800 difference to me." It's not. It's not. Like I said, you have to push it. And excellent. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm glad that helped. I'm glad that helped you. Uh, better to put that extra money towards glass, which would make a difference between those two bodies. Yes, I agree, right? Because if you spend money for an f1.2 lens versus a 2.8, that's money much better spent. Because that's about $800, right? Or 1.8 and a 1.2, but you'll get $800 worth doing that. Uh, and similar, I do not have anywhere near the same level of photography knowledge as you, or indeed my video. I would be a complete disaster on a blog chat. Well, this is what I told one of my students, because she's an awesome photographer and has been recognized, but she doesn't know how to do Flash. I'm teaching her Flash. I may have mentioned this in the past. So I'm tutoring her for Flash photography right now. But she has to give a speech at some convention. They invite her to speak because of her photography, but they invite her to talk about Flash photography for portraits. And she uses Flash barely in her work, but and of course she said, "Sure, I'll go do it." And then now she comes to me, right? Says, "Oh, Rob, you got to teach me Flash." But and the irony is, I'm not really a portrait photographer, but I know Flash really well, right? And that's all she needs. Once she knows Flash and how Flash and exposure and all of that, then she can deal with the portraits. She can deal with the portrait and the photography side. I'm more of a technical gear guy when it comes to that for her, right? Uh, but she said she was asking me, about what she should talk about when she's talking about flash photography, and she was really nervous about it. And again, her technical knowledge of flash is going to be very limited, right? Because I'm just teaching her the basics. I'm not going like all out, right? And I told her, you know what? Don't worry about it. I said, what I want you to do is lean in on what you're really good at. What she is really good at is working with the models and talking to them and interacting with them and getting them to do certain positions, or poses, I should say, and getting having a vision and using just props that are just like so simple, but making them amazing, right? You're doing amazing things with props and things. So I'm learning a lot from her as well, just watching her work while I'm teaching. And I told her, just lean into that. And then you can talk about the Flash and how you use Flash, but you don't have to get too technical because anybody can go on YouTube and learn, one quarter power, TTL, inverse square law. These things are just technical things about Flash. But I said your strength is really in how creative you are and how good you are with working with people and models. And that's what you need to lean into and talk about because that's something you can talk about to no end. And that's something that I would not be able to talk about at all. If I went up on a stage to talk about portrait and flash photography and portraiture, yeah, ask me anything about flash. Okay. But don't ask me about, working with the model. So I would lean in if I were giving a speech, I would lean into the technical side of flash photography. I'm telling her to lean in on the creative side of it, right? And not to worry about it. And the other thing is, you're going to run into people that ask you questions because I've done classes here and there. You're going to run into, with large groups, that you're going to run into people that are going to ask you a question. They already know the answer. They're just testing you, right? They're just testing you. And so far, I've yet to not be able to answer a question, but I know they know the answer. But I have to when I think someone is testing me, when I'm pretty sure they are, I will more than answer the question, right? And go beyond probably what they know about their own, what they knew about it. Um, so my only problem now is, and this is why I've been reluctant to teach any larger groups or classes, is I I've been having trouble remembering things and articulating things, like here in the live streams. It's only that I'm so well versed in flash photography that it comes out pretty easily, but I get a little bit nervous again when I can't articulate a particular, like right now I can't articulate a particular thought correctly. Maybe I just need to practice more. Okay. You date bodies and you marry glass. That's hilarious. I had not heard that before, but that's a good one. And here's the deal. You're authentic and non-pretentious. You don't pretend to be high and mighty. Thank you for being genuine. Oh, thank you. I try to be. I mean, who am I gonna fool, right? Who did some of these creators think they're fooling sometimes? I mean, I watch so many videos and there's a lot of people that I don't know if it's the case or not, but they just come off as like know-it-alls and wannabes and just I'm like, I hate to be critical because I know everyone that comes on YouTube are facing the same challenges that I did and working as hard, if not harder, to make content. So you have to give a lot of credit to anybody that puts themselves out there to the public with a YouTube video. But they, it just, for example, I'll give a great example. People that change camera systems all the time, like, and the titles are very clickbaity, and that's fine. That's they do a lot of that because of the way they're taught to do well on YouTube. Like, uh, I ditched Sony, or don't buy this until you watch this, or you know, I, I didn't, I improved my photography once I learned this one thing, right? And I'll watch a lot of the same videos, and I'm like, come on, this one thing, yes, it's important, but it's not like it changed your photography, or your photography sucked before you learned this one thing. You know what I mean? Your photography was pretty awesome, and then you make a video. My photography sucked until I learned this one thing. I'm like, seriously, like, who is it? I watched a YouTube short this morning. Might have been Potato Jet, but the title was something like that, like something about depth of field. It was one of these, until I learned this, I thought, I couldn't get a shallow depth of field. All he did was basically took a picture with an APS-C camera of some subject. It was a action figure. And then he moved the camera up this close, right? So he was maybe 6 feet away, 2 meters, and then he moved up to like a third, like 6 inches or half a meter, something like this. Took the same picture of the same action figure and was like, bam, shallow depth of field. Same lens, same aperture, but now I have a blurry background. And I didn't know this, and my photos sucked until I learned this one thing. Oh my God. Oh my God. I hate that. I hate that. You know? Uh, caveat all the things I said before about coming on, putting yourself out there on YouTube. I totally respect that. But I hate these kind of videos that take a very simple concept and make it like it's like they had an epiphany or something. It's just so firebrand, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's so crazy. It's crazy, crazy that they put so much emphasis on one thing in photography that changed their photography forever. And that's just not the case, you know? Depth of field is, yeah, focal length, aperture, distance, right? Flash exposure, uh, aperture, ISO, and distance, but not shutter speed. Shutter speed is practically independent of flash exposure. Uh, Whereas regular exposure is ISO, shutter speed, aperture. Flash exposure is ISO, aperture, and distance, right? Depth of field. I could go on and on, but there's no one thing in photography that is a deal changer, or what game changer. That's the word. There's no one thing in photography that's a game changer, and it just drives me nuts when I see a video. This is a game changer, you know. Uh, my photography sucked until I learned this. I hate those videos. Ah, face palm. Where's my face palm mouse pad? I had to stop using it because it started curling up. It was getting old. But I used to have a really cool face palm. Ah, it's gone. Anyway, um, what do you guys think? It drives me nuts. So if you're new to photography and you're watching the live stream right now, go ahead and watch those videos, but don't believe the thing that it's going to change your photography forever. It's not. You have to learn everything, and there's not much, right? I mean, there's not much to the photography skill set in of itself, right? Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, focal length, composition. You could learn all these things in a day. Like you could have like 5 cheat sheets and do any kind of photography that you want practically, but it's in the craft itself, right? Uh, learning all the different things. Anywho, uh, drives me nuts. And Adam is here. Good to see you. Says headed to St. Louis City Museum. Local artists created play place for kids. Carrying the EP5 and my new Rob Trek Amazon. Yeah, that bag is back up to $30. I had a deal for $12 on a sling bag. Now it's up to 30. I went because I update my deal page, pretty regular. And you're gonna use a 30 macro. Okay, that sounds like a good choice. Sounds like a good choice. And quick review, my $7,000 Leica Q3 versus my $1,300 GR3X HDF. You can take the exact same photos with both, though I love the Q3. Money don't mean squat in photography. So true. Because, like I said, photography and gear are separate topics, right? We can talk about gear. We can talk about why like a Q3 is $7,000, and I would say it's worth it. But if you're talking about photography, yeah, then it makes no sense. You can buy any camera and do photography. You can do photography with your cell phone, but gear is a different topic. So, I sometimes I get in a mood or a rant, and I say things like that camera's crap. I did that the other day. Uh, that's not true, right? All cameras have some value to some extent. There are crap cameras out there, but I was dumping on the Fujifilm X30 and X20 and the X10, that old X series, when I shouldn't have. They're fine cameras. They're just way overpriced, right? For in the used market. I ain't paying $600 or $700 for an old X20. How about an X70 is like 800, $1,000 for an X70? Are you freaking nuts? And then the word came out, that camera's crap. It's not crap. The camera's not crap. What's crap is the price. The price that's a crappy price for that camera, in my opinion. Anyhow, let's see. In addition, your vids anywhere I should look for the start here with these adjustments for DxO Photolab. Oh yeah, I have uh well, if you're looking for workflow, I have a video called, photo editing for beginners in DxO, and I have a DxO playlist. Let me just give you the playlist, and maybe one of those will be what you're looking for exactly, because just saying something simply adjustments is a little vague when it comes to talking about photo editing. So I'll give you the list, my playlist. Uh, and I'm gonna update it hopefully soon. Wow, it's Photolab 6 playlist, but most of the stuff is the same. There there's some significant differences too, but this should this should get this is probably 80% the same as Photolab 8. So there's the playlist for DxO. And Rob, have you ever stumbled over a thumb grip for the OM3? I have not. I have not. I'm not a big fan of thumb grips in the hot shoe because I don't want to bend or warp or damage the hot shoe in any way. And I would think constant pressure on your thumb on the hot shoe via thumb grip could introduce some problems. Um, so that's why I haven't even looked for them or stumbled across one because if I see a thumb grip that goes in the hot shoe, I just automatically draw a blank and move on to the next whatever thumbnail. So I'm sorry, I don't have any advice for that because I think they're a problem. Because this hot shoe is just metal. You can bend it with some needle nose pliers and stuff to get it back, but I just don't like the idea of putting pressure here uh, via thumb grip. I have to laugh every time I see those video about supposedly new tricks in photography that have been around for decades, if not more. I know, right? It's sensationalism designed to get clicks. Yeah. And Sisner says, I'm taking flash and LED lights on a trip to Hungary this Friday to specifically do photos and video of bats in low light, if I'm allowed. No time to set up the shot. Any tips? You know, I've seen those pictures of bats with flash, and then I saw another video. I was watching some video about bats, and they said you shouldn't use flash or LED lighting on them. Uh, I forget the reason why. I mean, I don't think it's a problem, but I did hear something. Anyway, look into that as well. Okay, look into is flash photography harmful to bats? Maybe Google that and see. But that aside, um, I guess it depends. I want to do photos and videos of bats. So I would use flash for the photos, and I would use video. Obviously, I would use the LED lighting. I'm just trying to think of how bats they're pretty fast and very hard to see right at night. So I think this is more about learning the behavior of the bats and knowing where they're going to be flying or predicting where they're going to be flying, and then setting up your LED and video lighting in that way. So if you're going to a specific place, I assume there's going to be a guide there of some kind or a fixer that will tell you exactly where the bats are going to come or where they typically come from and where they fly to, you know, altitude, distance, all of that. So you probably have a good idea of that already, or somebody will give you that, right? And I would just set up the lighting in that way. Uh, but you can definitely get away with when it comes to photos, you can definitely get away with like 1/200th of a second shutter speed. Shutter speed is not going to matter because it's not going to be any ambient light or very little that you have to worry about. And you want to use uh I would say as low a power as possible on the flash. Not because I'm, like I said, worried about harming the bats, because I don't think it does, but I would just double check that. Um, because lower power flash gives you a very fast burst in terms of the actual time the flash fires. So, as you know, in flash photography, the flash acts as your shutter to freeze action. So you want to use a lower power as possible to get the exposure. So you may need to bump your ISO a tiny bit, but if you don't want to bump your ISO, then you're going to have to use higher flash power because you're also going to want very, very fast recycle times. So if you can use a flash power of like 1/32 with your camera, then you can probably fire off like 10 frames per second, right? So set your shutter speed, mechanical shutter to 10 frames per second. your flash power to 1/32, your shutter speed to 1/200, and then your aperture, uh, whatever it needs to be, but as wide open as you can be. I would say like f4, f2.8, uh, ideally f4, so you have just enough depth of field. At f4, I think will be more than enough for a single bat to be in focus, front to back and top to bottom, like in all three dimensions at f4. But still wide enough that you get enough light that you don't have to crank up your flash power. And that's what I would do. So I would try 10 frames per second, and then of course manually focus the distance, right? I doubt because the use night vision, or yeah, I think it's called night vision. Use night vision. The camera will focus better in low light when you have night vision turned on. But if you can pre-focus, so set your focus limiter, right, in your camera, so it's not going all the way to infinity and back to minimum focusing distance to focus. Set a focus limiter within a range you think the bats will be in, and night vision, 10 frames per second, f4, 1/32 power. That's what I would do for photos. Um, and then for video, I would set the LED lighting, assuming it's a bicolor LED light, set the LED lighting to the same temperature as your flash. And I would do this before you go out in the field. Test at home, like take a picture of a gray card with the LED light and take a picture of the gray card with your flash, and then match the white balances between the two. Because in video, typically you don't have as much flexibility when it comes to adjusting the white balance, right? So I would definitely gray card before you go out so you can set the color temperature of the LED light to match the flash. And then from there, uh, the LED light itself, I would probably just do bare bulb, right? Unless you're in a tunnel, then maybe you can use a bowl, right? A reflector bowl. But otherwise, I would just use the flat the I would use the LED light bare bulb so you get a maximum spread of light. On the flash, I would use I'd probably use the tightest beam possible. I would do opposite. Like if you have a 100 millimeter focal zoom on your lens, that's what I would use versus say 12 millimeter, because that'll focus the light more. But the bats will probably be far enough away that the light's going to spread anyway, and you want it to be as bright as possible so you can use the lower power on your flash. Um, so those are all the things. I wish I could have itemized that a little bit, but I had to think it through a little bit. But that's what I would do. Uh, and again, on the LED lighting, if you're going to have both on at the same time, like recording video while you're taking photos, that would be the reason to match the white balance. But on the LED lighting, again, I would try and use as low a power as possible to minimize the ambient light. The art, I'm sorry, I would use as low a power as possible on the LED if you're taking photos at the same time while doing video, so that you minimize the amount of artificial light on the bats to minimize motion blur that's going to be picked up by the bat's movement when you have two light sources going at the same time, sold another. And he's very, very authentic in that sense. Uh, driving me, he would, he's someone that it doesn't drive me nuts that he's constantly changing cameras, because he explains why he changed cameras, what his thought process is. And if he changes his mind again, it's okay. I totally get where he's coming from because he tells you. There's a lot of videos, people are changing camera systems, and it's usually changing to Sony. You don't see too many videos about people going from Sony to Fujifilm, although that's another common one, but not as much. Usually it's like, I used to shoot Nikon, then I switched to Sony. But now people are Now you're seeing more videos. Oh, I used to shoot Sony, but now I'm switching to Canon or I'm switching to Nikon, you know? Whatever is what I say. Whatever. Do whatever makes you happy, man. You know? Uh I think they're all great cameras and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I was talking to Eric, another Eric yesterday, not Eric Lindquist, but uh he's selling his S S12X or S52X. Like he has two of those. He had two S5s. One was like an S52, one was an S52X. I think I got the model numbers right. Uh, and he mentioned a couple other Lumix cameras that he's going to sell because he wants to buy the Hasselblad X2D2, the 100 megapixel thing that just got announced. Uh, and he has a Panasonic S1R, which I'm very jealous of. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. Maybe I'll buy his S5 too, but I really want the S1R Mark II. But anyhow, uh, but he mentioned the original and the G9 Mark II he's going to get rid of. So G9 Mark II, S1, S5 2X, and S5 II. So he's going to dump those three cameras and buy the X2D2. But he has the X2D now, right? He just has the previous one. Now he wants to get the new one. Uh, but he mentioned the original Lumix G9, the Mark One, and he loves that camera and the ergonomics of that camera, and he's never going to part with it. Not that he paid much for it anyway, but he just can't sell that camera because when he puts that, when he picks it up, he feels like it just feels so good in his hands and it's so ergonomic and it's like made for photographers. And I agree 100% everything he's saying. And I said, it's really awesome when you can have a camera like that in your collection that just like, and I'll tell you right now, for me, it was the EM1 Mark III was the most comfortable, perfect fitting camera in my hand ever. I parted with it to get the OM1. The OM1 also excellent, but not as good as the M1 Mark III in my opinion. It's very subtle. Uh, but it's great when you have a camera like that in should you have the privilege of having more than one camera, it's great to have one of those in your collection. And for me, it was the M1 Mark III. Right now, believe it or not, the most comfortable camera for me to hold in my hand is my Canon R8. That camera just is perfect in my hand. Uh, I need to shoot with it more. I don't think I've shot more than a couple hundred shots on it after all this time. I think I've had it almost a year, it feels like, but uh, that camera feels really good. This Pentax feels really good actually, but it's just too heavy. It feels good in the hand, but it's just a little bit too heavy. So the fact that it's so heavy, because you got to put like a decent lens on it, right? And those are heavy, makes it uncomfortable. Because now it's like, putting pressure in places on my palm and my fingers that it wouldn't, if it was lighter, wouldn't be doing. But I still love this camera anyway. Um, anyhow, Eric says, I tried Tony and Chelsea's channel recently again, and I can't do it. I know you don't smack on the other photography channels, but I've just never seen such a spend all your money on gear channel than that. I think at their heart they're trying to be very genuine, but they run their channel like a business, just like Pro. Their YouTube channel is their business, and they have a very uh, methodical or polished or specific intent with every single video. that they produce, right? Or and Fro time to time makes a video has nothing to do with trying to sell you things. He's just talking from the heart. Maybe they're shorts, YouTube shorts, or I don't know where I've seen them. But I have a ton of respect for both of them. And uh but yeah, I would say their videos are business first, whether it's to sell you their Pro pack of presets to get you to sign up for an email, uh, or to sell you, to tell you to make recommendations on gear, what they think is the best. Um, there's always a very business-like reason for that video. It's not like me, like some viewer, I forget who it was now. It's like I'm having trouble updating my firmware on my flash. So I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll just make a couple quick videos for you, right?" So the last two videos I made were about how to update the firmware on a Godox flash. Uh, and nothing to do with buying anything, right? It's just you already bought the flash. How do you update the firmware on it, right? And a lot of videos I used to make were like that. It was like, just ask me anything and I'll make a video about it, right? Um, when I do product reviews, the intent is a little bit different. I always give you my honest opinion, but it's a little tainted because I got the gear free, quote unquote. I don't think it's free, honestly, because I put so much time into it. I'm paying for it with my time. So it's not like I got it for free, but I did from a financial standpoint, I got the gear free. Like I got a couple of reviews. But I always try to add in something extra to the review that's more practical. I had one of my one of my sponsors, not sponsors, but one of the people that gave me a flash was complaining about my video that was too long, right? I've gotten that more than a couple of times. Can you make the video a little shorter? I'm like, well, there's lots of good stuff in here about how to use it and how to do this, that, and the other thing with it. I'm like, well, we just want to focus kind of on the key features. I said, all right, fine. So I cut the video in half and I made two videos. One about the flash, one about how to use it. Uh, but yeah, a lot of the videos I make are just because somebody asked me, how do you do that? I'm like, oh, okay, let me show you. Because a lot of times I can't just answer in the comments section, right? It's too cumbersome. It'd be so much easier just to show you in a short video. Okay, I lost my chat window. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I haven't heard about thumb grips damaging the hot shoe, but it makes sense. There's potential danger. Yeah, I would think. I mean, I maybe it's unfounded. Maybe I'm just uh what's again I my vocabulary. I forget the entire English language sometimes. Uh it's an unfounded fear though, potentially, right? I don't know. It's like I just don't like to go into DC because every time I go there, it's either I'm scared to death of getting mugged or robbed, or scared to death of getting a traffic ticket. Like they got so many speed cams or parking tickets. So I'm worried about driving there because I'm worried about speed cameras, and I'm worried about parking there because the signs are so ambiguous. Getting a parking ticket, and all these are $100, $200 type tickets. They're not like small amounts, right? Uh, I don't think there's a ticket in DC you can get that's less than $100. And then once I park and get out of the car, I'm worried about my car getting hijacked. I'm worried about, getting robbed. I mean, it's like even though it's a little bit out there for me, right? And with respect to I probably have really statistically nothing to worry about. but it's in the back of my head. So whenever we have events or people ask me to go to DC, sorry, I don't go into DC. Last time I went into DC, I got $100 freaking ticket for nothing. Nothing. The speed limit's 55. And then you go under a bridge for about 1 or 2 tenths of a mile, right? So it's the same road, 55, 55, go under the bridge, 45, come out of the bridge, it goes back to 55, right? That's the speed limit. I got a ticket for doing 55 in the tunnel. $100. I mean, seriously. That was about a year ago. I haven't been back since. I'm not doing it. I don't like to go through DC. I just don't like anything about it. There's nothing there I want anyway. Yeah, they have a few monuments, but so what? A couple of museums. The museums are nice, but I'm not going there. It's nothing in DC I want to see or do that I can't do somewhere else, either through a local park that I can go to nearby or through the magic of television and YouTube. If I want to see or learn something, I can do it. I don't have to go to a museum. And thank you, Hiker Dude. Let's not forget a thumbs up. I appreciate that. And thanks for all the excellent advice on flash and LED. We'll have to go back and chat and write down the, yeah. Hopefully some of that was helpful, at least it made sense. And good morning, this side towards screen. Good to see you. So Rob, you ordering the new Hasselblad X2D 100C? No. If it were just the camera, maybe, but it's the lenses on top of that. No frickin' way. I'd have to pile up 4 or 5 different credit cards and spread it out to get that all on get that done. And honestly, I think I'm still paying off my OM3. I think I have. Yeah, I'm still paying off my OM3. I got about 1,400 bucks left right now. Uh, and I have to pay it off by November because I'm at 0%. But because you know how you can make a minimum payment like 25 cents a month until the due date. So that's what I'm doing. So I got to pay it off. I think I'll be able to. If not, then I'll roll it over onto another 0% credit card. And by 0%, I'm usually paying a 3% fee to do that. So I'm paying 3% effectively across. I might have to do that, roll it over. So I would love to have an X2D, but for 7,000, I'd probably want to get that 150 to 400, right? The Olympus. That's kind of my dream halo lens. I went out to Huntley Meadows last week and I saw like 2 different people with that lens. So many OM system shooters at Huntley Meadows. 2 people there had that lens. And I'm walking around with my 75 to 300 on my OM3, which I'm perfectly fine with. You trade off a little image quality and speed for compactness. And I got some decent shots. Because my goal there wasn't to do birding. My goal that day was really macro. Uh, and ironically, I didn't get any macro shots. I ended up using my 75 to 300 the whole time. So I should have just went there with my 300 f4. So I'd love to get the 150 to 400. I'd love to get that. I could probably get it for 7,000 used and 7,500 brand new. I don't know, but that's still a dream. It's just not happening anytime soon. Um, if I sell off some of the crap that I have, I might be able to do it. But I love all my cameras. I love all my camera gear from my old LX5. I love that little camera up to my OM3, which is my Halo camera now. And the new GR4 is even I know it's like 15 or $1,600 for, for what it is, that's a lot of money. But you can't discount how they miniaturized the camera, put a bigger battery in, put in IBIS. They did a lot of work on that camera. New sensor, all that good stuff, right? So a lot of work went into that camera, and they still kept it very, very compact. They made it even a hair smaller, I hear, like it's a little bit thinner, which is amazing. And so I think they're offering a fair price. It's not like there's a lot of competition. That's part of the problem, right? Is when there's no competition, you can pretty much charge what you want. Um, and that's fine. A camera's worth what people are willing to pay for it. Like why is a Deluxe 8 selling for $2,000 now? The Leica Deluxe 8, it's not worth that much, really. I struggled to pay. I bought it at retail about a year ago for 15 or 1600, whatever the price was then. And that was a little bit of a stretch, but I wanted that camera for some reason, just gas. No, no technical reason to want it. But anyhow, so I'd rather have 5 millimeter more with a tilt screen. I know there's like no perfect camera, right? So now we're talking probably a really good alternative, I think, would be the old Olympus XZ2. It's probably about the same size, is pocketable, and has a tilt screen and takes great pictures, great lens. Uh, but I think that has an old 1.7 sensor, right? 1 over 1.7, so much smaller sensor, but so what? Hmm. Must have a good cut. Well, Mark, the 75 to 300, he says his is pretty meh. Mine, overall, yeah, it's meh. But with DxO, I really get good results with it, with DxO. But it's possible your copy is not very good. But I've had, I've gotten really, really good images with that lens. Um, if if we go back to my Flickr, like this one. I mean, it's a bird on a stick, but amazing detail. This one I cropped in a ton. I mean, this image here is not even okay. So it's about less than 2 megapixels. Uh, did that with the 75 to 300. Let's see what else we got. That one's okay. It's a little bit back focused there. That one's not bad. That one came out pretty good. That one's not bad. This was from the other day. Oh, July. Has it been that long? July 16th? God, I feel like I just took that picture. I think these are really nice from the 75 to 300. I mean, these are just beautiful, and that's really nice detail. Um, Look at this dragonfly. All the detail I got out of this. Little chickadee. Oh, this is some backyard birding. But yeah, there's some great There's some great shots. Let me see if I can find my favorite shot. It's a blue jay, one of my favorite shots. Um, these came out really good too. These ones of the heron, the kingfisher. Was this? Yeah, this is the 75 to 300. Uh, anyway, you get the idea. Oh, this is one of my favorite shots. That's a great shot. Um, some eagle shots. This came up pretty good. A little bit soft. Yeah. I don't think I processed this one with DxO. This is way back, 2021. I think I had DxO back then, but I'm not sure. I may not have. I certainly not the DxO I have today. That's for sure. Um, this one I definitely had DxO. That came out really good. Yeah, but I get it. Before DxO, yeah, my images were all a little bit soft. And then often too many problems driving to certain sites when I travel with Nature Trek Company overseas for my wildlife photos and video, just get taxi to airport and then everything covered. Yep. Um, and the Olympus Stylus 1, yeah, still a great travel camera for amateurs. If only OMSD would bring back the 1 inch sensor or bring it back with a 1 inch sensor. Yeah, they could do it. Or a Micro Four Thirds sensor. Why not? And love your wildlife shots, particularly the action ones. Oh, thanks. I get a few time to time that I like. They're okay. They're okay. I think most of my good shots are with my 300 f4. Um, let me see. Where's a good action shot? Eh, I don't know. I'm not impressed by my own photography, to be honest. They're okay. I was looking for, I'm sorry, you guys can't see my screen. I'm looking for something with some action. I mean, these are just bird and flight shots. These little backyard birds are the hardest ones too. Um, oh, how did Ellie get in there? Because this album is by yeah, I was pretty happy with how this came out. You know, Pro Capture, little bitty tree swallow jumping off, and this was kind of cool. This crow or crackle, I think it's a crackle, is attacking this hawk. So their wings got intertwined. That was a pretty cool shot. And then oh, there's my friend. Oh, this was a great shot. This little bee flying in front of this bluebird or indigo, whatever that is. That was a cool shot. But okay. And any rumors about Photolab 9 updates and new modes. Yes. Every every fall, third quarter, for the last 5 years that I've been, you know, using DxO, they come out with a new version. So my advice is at this point in the game, because we're talking September now, right? At this point in the game, just wait for the next version. Just wait. It's only going to be another month or two, if that, before something gets leaked or rumored. So when it comes to Photolab 8, uh, or Photolab in general, if it's the beginning of the year, December, January, February, March, I would even go to the second quarter, potentially. I would buy whatever they have currently for sale. But if we're in the third quarter, fourth quarter, forget it. Just wait. Every year for the last 5 years that I've been using DxO, they've come out with a new version. So rumor, no rumors, leaks, whatever, you can pretty much count on by the fourth quarter, there's going to be a new version of Photolab. Now, when it comes to Nick Collection, Pure Raw, you know, uh, whatever else, Film Pack, all these other ones are a little bit more random. Uh, I haven't seen any consistency there, other than it's rarely the same time as Photolab. So uh, usually they're 1 or 2 quarters. They're separated by 1 or 2 quarters, and not every year, even. So that's what I would do. If you're thinking about Photolab right now, wait. We're too close to the fourth quarter, right? October, November, December is fourth quarter. We're too close. Uh, but you can pretty much count on there's going to be a new version every year by fourth quarter for Photolab. You can pretty much count on almost every year, at least every other year, Nick Collection, right? And every other year for Film Pack. Well, every 2 or 3 years on Film Pack. So those are a little bit more random. Pure Raw every year, but not in the fourth quarter. Typically, Pure Raw is like first, second quarter type release. Uh, and the best deals are almost always Black Friday. But I think Photolab is getting so popular now that they're not giving the discounts like they used to do. The last 2 years, the discounts have been pretty modest, 20 to 30% off the last 2 years, right? So it's been pretty modest. Because there was about 3 years ago, they had a deal 50% off. I mean, half off everything, right? Three years ago, the year before that, so on and so on. I wish I could check, but my entire email account got deleted. So I lost all my history over the last 10 years or however long I had that account. Uh, yeah, don't get me started on that. But anyway, um, but yeah, so you don't need a rumor or a leak. You can pretty much bet by fourth quarter, there's going to be a new version of Photolab. By second quarter, there's going to be a new version of Pure Raw. And then every other year or so, you'll see Nick Collection and Film Pack, and those things get updated. I might do a Labor Day special. And what to say about the TG7? It's awesome. When I was shopping, yeah, the camera fits in the pocket. Yeah. When I was shopping between the TG7 and, believe it or not, like an X100, I'm sorry, the TG5 and some other compact camera. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the other one was significantly uh, higher spec, right? APS-C, something like that. I can't remember. I went with the TG7 or TG5, I should say. TG5, TG7, these are great little cameras. Take great pictures, pocketable, durable, waterproof. I mean, 500 bucks, they're really a good deal for what you're getting. And I should take mine out more. I just have so many cameras I want to take out. Like my LX100 Mark II is a great little camera. My Deluxe 8 is a great compact. My LX5, I really like. So many great little cameras. Just not enough days, but I got to do it. I should I should make a calendar and say, okay, on this date I'm taking this camera. On this date I'm going to take this camera. On this date, etc. And the 300 f4 is excellent and works well with the 1.4 TC. For my high-speed video, I virtually use 40 to 152.8 with TC to keep as much of the action possible in frame. Only manual focus possible. Okay. Yeah, I love my 300 definitely. Chuck says I might switch if they had exposure stacking and panorama stitching. Switch to what? I lost our breadcrumb conversation. You were talking about Oh, you were talking about the GR5 or 4. Yeah, GR4. And Tim says, I always get a kick out of you denigrating your photos and then you show a spectacular shot like the B Indigo shot. I'd love to get a shot like it's luck. Man, it's just pro capture. And then you get lucky, right? Oh, DxO. Okay. So yeah, it'd be nice if they added layering. That would be awesome. I mean, I have to use Photoshop or you can use GIMP. Is it GIMP? You can use GIMP. I keep thinking of that movie whenever I hear the word GIMP. Uh, oh my God, what the heck is the name of that movie with the GIMP? Huh. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time, and I can't think of the name of it. It has Bruce Willis. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Oh man, you're quick, Marco. Yeah, Pulp Fiction. Anyway, you can use GIMP to layer your stuff. That's a good alternative. And but yeah, I buy the annual thing for Adobe for 120 bucks a year, and I get my money's worth out of it. But it kills me to have to do that for the one little extra thing that it does, which is layering and the workflow between Lightroom and Photoshop, and the fact that I can edit my monochrome files off my Pentax monochrome camera. There's a lot of reasons I have I use it, but it's not my primary editor. I only use it for like that, right? That stuff. I actually my last photo job, I said, okay, I'm going to try and do the entire photo job just using DxO and Nik Collection, uh, and I was able to do about half of it, but I had to go back to Photoshop for some other stuff. And it's great when you pick up a camera and use it for a day. I just did that with my GXR. Realized how nice that camera is. Now I need all the other lens sensor modules. Oh my God. That was that modular camera from Ricoh? Wow. It's really interesting. The sales numbers came out for 2024. It was posted on the 43 Rumor site. Let me see. Um, this one, right? Oh, you misspelled Eric's name. Eric Jennings. Seriously. Anyway, This is the guy I was talking about earlier about who switches cameras constantly, but it's I don't fault him for it at all. Why he switches because he tells you why in a very authentic, genuine way. This was an interesting chart from 43 Rumors. OM Digital has 1.9% of the market. Didn't they used to be like 25%? I guess that was years and years ago, but man, what a huge fall from grace there. I mean, Canon and Nikon have always been pretty big. Sony's very recently been very big, right? The last few years. Holy crap, look at this. What do they want $800 for? The X100S. Anyway, I got distracted. Uh Panasonic 3.5%. And I would imagine a lot of that is their full frame stuff now. But what was more interesting was the total numbers here. There's about a million more cameras up here than down here. So people are buying more cameras. And there was a nice jump on Fuji, right? They were from 430 to 740. So that's a good 30-40% increase, right? And then well, my percentages are backwards. It's like an 80% increase if you want to do it right. Do the math right. But anyway, uh Canon sold more, Sony sold more, Nikon sold more, Fujifilm sold a lot more, and Panasonic sold more. One Digital Solution is the only one that sold less. That's interesting. They went from 180,000 units here to 160,000. So who's taking their business? My guess would be my guess would be these two guys, Panasonic and Fuji. Actually not. I bet Fuji took away those 20,000 sales. Uh, because they went from 430 to 740. But I don't know. I don't know. Be interesting to see what 2025 numbers are going to be. We're going to have to wait another year to get those, but uh, it's nice to be in the elite group, right? Where there's not many members in the OM system family, is the way I look at it. But it's funny when I went out the other day to wildlife, Hunley Meadows, a lot of people had OM system cameras and lenses. A lot. I would say uh, out of the three that I saw, well, let me rephrase that. Three that I remember, two of them were shooting Nikon and Sony. Like one had a Nikon, one had a Sony. One had a Nikon Z8 with, the big honking lens, but then he was using his OM5 for macro, and he had the fancy diffuser and all of that. And the other person was shooting, uh, yeah, he was using his Sony telephoto, and he was probably using the OM system camera for macro. And then the third person was shooting. No, no, because I saw two 150 to 400. So that guy had to be shooting long lens and had to be shooting both cameras for wildlife. And then he was shooting, and then another guy was shooting only the OM1 Mark II and 150 to 400. That was his setup. And all of them very happy, very happy. And one guy just walked by, had a 150 to 400 on my way out when I was leaving. So I think I saw 4 150 to 400s that day, like some unbelievable amount. I'm sorry, not 4 on. I saw 3 of those. Forget it. Eyewitness testimony is unreliable. That's all I can say. But I did see a guy when I was walking out had that lens. Yeah, map camera was pretty good. There's another guy on there that I used to buy from, um, but I got my Pentax monochrome from map camera, I'm pretty sure. Nikon had a good year. Let me look at that again. Nikon went from 810,000 units to 960,000 units. So they had a little bit of gain in market share. So not bad. Uh, Man, Fuji really took off. Their market share gained 3%. That's a pretty big jump year over year. Because everyone else is kind of in the fractions. Canon in market share actually went down, but their numbers are so big it doesn't matter. Panasonic only sold 20,000 more units, but OM Digital sold 20,000 less units. But they're just numbers. I mean, it doesn't matter. If OM Systems only sold one camera, hopefully I was the one that got it. That's all I care about, right? I only care about me and my cameras. What the market is doing in general is irrelevant to me. Um, when I think I've bought a quality piece of gear, right? Doesn't matter if I'm the only one that has it. If I like it, that's all that matters, right? Oh yeah, I'll end on this note here. It'd be crazy if there was a chart for used or previously loved cameras. The secondhand market is huge. Um, there was an interview of an eBay somebody from eBay, somebody of consequence. I wish I could find that interview, but maybe you can Google it. But they talked about that a little bit. I don't think there's a chart or anything official, but unofficially, you got a pretty good feel for how strong the used market is and how many sales there are. But I don't know how it compares to new sales. People stop you quite a bit about the On3 and it's fun to use. Yeah. And, yesterday when I went on the photo walk, we had one Eric there. He was all Lumix all the time. That's great. Or his Hasselblad. And then there was uh, Dave had an OM. I had an OM. Robert had an OM. There was three of us there out of seven that had OM system cameras. At least three. I'm trying to think. One guy's a Nikon, but he's like Nikon DSLR, so he doesn't count at all. That's not a photography. I'm just kidding. Uh, yeah, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, I love the OM3. And Stuart, our System Matura. Yep. We'll see you later. Thanks for coming in today. And Stuart says, I popped back in. I wouldn't be surprised if Home System had a good 2025, judging by the number of people I see changing to it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the OM3 numbers aren't in 2024, I don't think, right? That came out this year. So I had the OM3, probably had the OM1 Mark II. Uh, that might be bigger. I don't know. And then the OM5 Mark II, which is, in the sand beige, is sold out everywhere. I'm having trouble. Well, I shouldn't say it's sold out at my local camera store. So we'll see. Uh, I hope. Oh, I was going to show you guys video from my vlogging. I mean, we're way past that conversation now, but let me see what's on there. Hopefully, nothing weird. Uh, let's see. This is 14 minutes. Yeah, I was using Flash. I'm gonna have to edit this video. Nothing special. Just some point of view stuff. How about this one? This is 7 minutes. Yep, doing my settings, setting my flash power. Oh, this is when I was taking a picture of the statue. And then what's down here? This is probably, yeah, same statue. It all has to be de-squeezed and processed and stuff. But the thing is, I take this little Go thing out all the time. I record footage and then I delete it later because I'm never going to make a video out of it. This one I might be able to use some of it as a B-roll, but there's no usable like vlogging footage from any of that stuff. Ah, but okay. So all that said, let me give you one more link before I go, and links are also down below in the description of this video. But if you guys want to support my channel, right now is a good time to do it because it's Labor Day. So Amazon has a lot of Labor Day sales. If you go to that page, those are the photography deals that I picked out, and there's quite a few. So it'll take you to this page. This is a good deal. Panasonic S5 II, and you get two lenses, including the 20 to 60 and the 50 for 2,100 bucks. And then down here, this is a great deal on a power bank. This is a great deal on a USB power. I mean, there's lots of interesting stuff in here. $8.49 for a CPL and ND filter set. $18 for this magnetic CPL and ND 1000 filter set. This and these two are really good deals. A star filter, the 37 millimeter filter thread. This will fit your kit lens. Um, so anyway, I cherry picked some stuff in here that you guys can check out. It it helps me out a little bit, get a couple bucks, or you can donate or become a member for 99 cents a month. I was thinking about maybe giving a $3 membership and doing uh what do you call it? Member only live streams. But then I'm only getting like 40, 50 people here when it's open. How many members would actually show up? I don't have even 40, 50 members, I don't think. I think I looked at my stats the last 3 months. I think I picked up three members. Oh, man, it's brutal. So that's why I question whether I should even come on anymore because nobody's watching effectively. But it doesn't matter. I like doing it, so I keep doing it. So you guys, uh, I'll be back again tomorrow, very likely for the Labor Day sales stuff to try to make some affiliate money. So hopefully I'll see you there tomorrow. I also do my photo editing and another photo live chat next week. So look forward to that. And I want you guys to have a great rest of your day. Have a great holiday tomorrow if you're here, if that applies to you, and eat healthy, exercise. So I want to be with you guys a long time. So thanks for being here today, and I hope to see you again soon.